Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I am here to share with you all of the books that I read during the Buzzwordathon Round 5, which took place this past week, November 18th through the 24th. The buzzword for this round was numbers, and I managed to read 4 books during the week, which is exciting, and I'm really happy with those results. So some of you may have seen I did vlog the first part of the week, so you may know some of these books that I'm going to talk about. You got a little sneak peek into my thoughts on them, but I didn't actually finish anything until after I finished that vlog for those first 3 days. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into my thoughts on these books. So the first book that I completed during Buzzwordathon Round 5 was The 57 Bus by Dashka Slater. I listened to this on audio, and this is a YA nonfiction book that deals with a hate crime that occurred on a public bus, the 57 bus in California. I can't remember the exact city it was. I think it was near Oakland. I'm not sure. But the crime dealt with 2 teenagers, a teenage boy named Richard, and an agender teen named Sasha. And what happened was Sasha was asleep on the bus, and they were wearing a skirt. And Richard was with a couple of his friends and decided to light the skirt on fire. And the skirt lit up a lot more than he thought it was going to, and Sasha was badly burned on their legs. And the book kind of deals with the crime and the aftermath, but also spent a lot of time introducing you to both Richard and Sasha and how their lives converged that day on that bus. And this was a fantastic nonfiction book. This book really surprised me. I didn't think I was going to get as much out of it as I thought I would, and that's not a very good thing to say, because let's be honest, I thought because it was YA it wasn't going to be as impactful, maybe, I don't know. But this book was amazing. And what I think was amazing about it was the way in which the book was structured. The first part of the book, you are introduced to Richard and Sasha, and you learn a lot about them before the crime occurred. Then you get the details on what happened, and then the aftermath. And so leading up to the crime, there's a lot of great information in here about gender types that I did not know going into the book. I'm pretty naive about that branch of the LGBTQ plus community, and so I found it to be very educational, eye-opening, absolutely loved it. And like I said in my vlog, it has me wanting to read more about that topic, and wanting to just dive into that more. And I think that hopefully is also what happens to teens and others that read this book, because it is very educational, and I think that's important for the youth to be opening their eyes to certain things and to different ways in which people live on this wonderful earth of ours. So yes, I absolutely loved that. I also really liked that it got into the criminal justice system and how they handle minors, because Richard was a minor when he was charged with the crime, and how that whole process went for him being a teenager. And that was also very interesting, and I learned a lot also. It also talks a lot in here about socioeconomic classes, obviously differences in races, discrimination. I mean, it covers a lot of things for being such a short little book, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I loved that it also focused on how this horrible thing happened, but the people involved had compassion, they had understanding. So it deals with forgiveness and with redemption and with owning up to your mistakes and showing a maturity. And yeah, it was just kind of how this horrible event brought about, in some ways, some good did come out of it. And I really liked it. I thought it was very inspirational. And I think it's a nonfiction book that everyone should read, not just teens, but everyone, because it was awesome. It really was. And I gave it 5 stars. Next up, I completed The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a beloved book on BookTube. And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous going into this because it is such a hyped book, and I wasn't sure if it was going to live up to the hype for me, but I am happy to say that it did. I don't know if I really need to go into detail what this book is about, but I will very quickly for those of you that don't know. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a book about a celebrity, kind of like an old Hollywood celebrity, sort of like a Marilyn Monroe or an Elizabeth Taylor, who was just so famous for decades, was in all kinds of movies, Oscar winner, all that stuff. That's Evelyn Hugo in this book. And she had this very glamorous life, but never really sat down and talked to a biographer or a reporter about her life, though it seemed to be very tumultuous, in addition to being glamorous, because she had 7 husbands. And one day, this journalist who's kind of, she's not like well-known or anything like that, gets contacted to do this story on Evelyn Hugo. And so she goes to Evelyn Hugo's apartment, and Evelyn sits her down and says, "Listen, I want to tell you my life story. So are you in or what?" And it's kind of goes from there. You get into her life and obviously how and why she ended up with 7 husbands. And wow, this book was so like addicting. Like, I didn't want to put this book down. It was so good. And like I said in my vlog, it's kind of like reading a gossip magazine, which I don't normally get into that sort of stuff, like celebrity gossip and like all that, but this was fascinating to me, like kind of the behind closed doors, like what's really going on in Hollywood. And like there's all these secrets and all this scheming behind the scenes that people just don't know about. And it was fascinating. It really was. And so it takes you through the 1950s when Evelyn starts her career all the way to the present day. And yeah, I loved this book. I really did. I think the most about it was that it touched on love in all of its forms. You have obviously romantic love. You have platonic love in this book. You have parental love. You have self-love. And then of course you have like celebrity and like infatuation type of things, like that people, you know, how people get about certain celebrities and things like that. It kind of deals with that too. And then it also dealt with the whole idea of perception versus reality. Evelyn Hugo had this persona that people, you know, on screen where people thought that they knew her, that she was this certain type of person, and they were wrong, you know? So I was so pleased by this. I think that Evelyn was a character that isn't necessarily a character that you are going to like all the time. She makes a lot of mistakes. She does a lot of selfish things, stupid things, but at the same time, you're rooting for her and you really like her. And so, yeah, I loved this book. I enjoyed every page. It was great. I'm so glad that I finally read it, and I gave it 5 stars. The third book that I completed during the readathon was 10th of December by George Saunders. This is a short story collection, and I've never read George Saunders before. Wanted to give him a try. So these short stories they don't all really have a like a theme that ties them together or anything, but I found that in reading them, many of them deal with just sort of ordinary, mundane things happening, but then there's something kind of off or weird that happens to kind of make you kind of go, wait, what? And I really enjoyed George Saunders' writing style, although, with that being said, I listened to this on audio, and I really think that his writing, for me, is better suited to listen to. I think if I was trying to physically read this, I might have struggled a little, but because I listened to it, it went very well. And I gave all of these stories, there were 10 in all, they all got either a 3 or a 4 star. So not too bad. There weren't any that really like sucked in my opinion, but there wasn't any that like, wow, blew my mind either. I think they were all pretty good, which is kind of rare for me. Normally short story collections, there's like a huge spectrum of ratings, because I think I've mentioned before that's the way that I rate short story collections, is I rate every single story and then do like an average. So on average, this averaged out to a 3.5, so it's a 3.5. I think on Goodreads I bumped it to a 4.0. But my favorite story in here was called, hold on, I have to check because I don't remember exactly what it was called. The Semplica Girl Diaries. And this was kind of a strange story about this man who is keeping a diary, just kind of about his everyday life. He's trying to write down every day what happens in his life. And his family is, like a lot of families, they are trying to keep up with the Joneses, but struggling really badly. Money's really tight. Their kids, their kids want like what all their friends have and things like that, and they are many times unable to give that to them. But then stroke of luck kind of happens, and he wins some money from the lottery and decides to beautify his backyard because his one daughter is having a birthday soon and wants to have this beautiful backyard party like one of her friends had recently had. And what makes this story a little strange, that makes you go, wait a minute, what? is that the new fad in like outdoor landscaping is to have these Semplica girls, which are basically women from other countries that have been human trafficked, to come in and basically be living lawn ornaments. Right? Weird, right? So when he beautifies his backyard for his daughter's birthday party, he gets some. And then that's all I'm going to say about the story. It kind of goes from there, but it's odd. So like I said, it kind of it's this very normal sort of story until you hit that point and you're like, wait, what? Living lawn ornaments, huh? So yeah, there were a couple other good stories in here too, but that one was my favorite. One other that I will mention is the very first story. It's called Victory Lap, and it's about a young boy who comes from a very strict family. His parents are super, super strict, and they're just very, very like regimented in everything they do. And he is at his house, and he witnesses one of his neighbors, who is about his age, a girl, this being kidnapped. This guy is trying to kidnap her, and he's kind of sitting there like, what do I do? Do I intervene? Because if I intervene, like, what will my parents think and stuff? And it's about kind of his mental process of like, what do I do? Do I save this girl or what? It was really good writing. He was a really interesting character, and I would say that that's kind of what this book really had going for it. Was the writing was unique. It was cool. I really liked it. I definitely want to read some more George Saunders. So if you guys out there have any recommendations for me, please let me know. So yeah, this overall was a 3.5 out of 5, rounded up to a 4. I would say if you're interested in trying George Saunders, definitely give this one a go. And then I finished out the readathon by reading Paper Girls Volume 4 by Brian K. Vaughan. I can't really say much about the plot of this one because, yeah, it would be spoilery. Total spoilers. But the gist of the series is that there are this group of 12-year-old girls in 1988 who work a paper route, and the day after Halloween they're doing their route and some weird crap starts going down in their neighborhood that they get caught up in. And so this story deals with time travel. It deals with a lot of like sci-fi sort of elements. This kind of like crazy like intergalactic space jumping war. And it's just like crazy. It's just crazy. So this one, I didn't quite love it as much as volumes 2 and 3. Volume 1, I was a little bit confused. Volume 2 and 3, I was sinking back into the story, really getting into it. And then this one, I'm feeling a little confused again. So I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm obviously going to continue this series. There's 2 more volumes left. So I definitely want to finish it out and find out what happens. But I was a little bit lost in this one. So I gave this one 3 stars out of 5, but I still enjoyed it, and I still definitely want to read it. And I would say if it sounds like something you might like, you should definitely check it out. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I read for the Buzzwordathon Round 5. Please let me know down below if you took part in the readathon, what books did you complete, because I would love to know. And if you read any of these books, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on them too. Yeah, other than that, I hope you guys had a great week, and I will talk with you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.